Hello! Happy International Women's Day.
Are we happy?
Are we happy though? Is it? Is it a happy International Women's Day? I don't know. Our feels on this have kind of changed. Uh, you know, so what have you seen out there? What have you seen as far as like the Women's Day things going on that people are doing to celebrate today?
Yeah, so I would bet that there's a lot of pink cupcakes in the break room and some women panel events taking place probably during like
The
lunch
lunch hour.
hours or, after work or whatnot because oh my goodness, like to actually do those things during the workday is just taking it a step too far.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, all those things are being organized by women and they're not getting paid any extra for it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
a week ago, I guarantee you someone went, "What are we doing for Women's Day?" Oh, yeah, you should throw something together, but don't stop attending meetings, don't stop doing delivery, and don't stop, But you and all the girls in finance and everyone else, you should all get together and like go out to lunch and like get to know each other and stuff and
and pay
yeah.
for it yourself.
And then pay for it yourself. Or you can expense it, but no more than like $20 a head because that's our per diem limit for lunch. So
Yeah. So, I joke, but the reality is there are likely women out there in the audience right now who are nodding their heads because that's exactly how this sort of marketing day, we'll call it, is treated at their companies. And especially in 2024 where the United Nations, the theme for this year is invest in women. These sort of attempts to for companies to really capitalize on this day to promote out there to potential customers and potential investors about how much they care and support women, while that show is put together on the backs of women without compensation for it, is just I called it the other day. I'm like, it's just totally brazen. It's incredible.
yeah, I agree. I think if Lynn Dawn were here, she would call this feel good, feel good
Yep.
diversity, what we're doing today. And don't get me wrong, I love seeing all the posts that I've seen from all my friends and stuff, like tagging like, all the women in their lives or or women colleagues who like mean something to them and stuff. And that's been super fun to see. But I was like, Stacey, like, what do you see people doing? And she was like, mostly posting about it. And it's probably going to stop there. And I'm like, it probably is. So, with the episode today, what we really want to do is we want to tell you things you can intentionally and actionably do to support and further women and their livelihoods, and not just simply tag them in a post. As beautiful as that is, it's not going far enough, and the UN agrees, which is why we align today's episode with them. So, the things we're going to get into today are, pay equity and how that's still a problem in 2024. And if you don't think it's a problem, you are woefully misled because it is still a problem. Things like access and advancement through training and additional opportunities we don't get on a daily basis unless we highly ask, highly advocate. And I have a whole story there that we're going to get into, and it's spicy and I can't wait to share it. And finally, another thing you can do that a lot of people don't think about is simply to support women-led businesses, simply to find a business with a women leadership team, women founder, women CEOs, and support them. I actually had a CEO friend whose company didn't take off. And she was like, frankly, a large barrier, I was told by VC firms, is that it's because I'm a woman leading this company in this space. And I was like, that breaks my heart for you. So
At least they were honest about it.
at least they gave her honest feedback. They didn't tell her, you're doing a great job. You've got a great product and idea. It's just going to die it's going to die at go to market. They were like, frankly, get some dudes on your leadership team and then we'll talk. And she was like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, not just for the sake of doing that. Not no, but just not for the sake of because they said that. So pay equity. What does that mean to you, Stacey? What does that mean to you, and what is the problem we're seeing today?
Yeah, so pay equity, the definition that ADP puts out, which I feel like is an authoritative source, given they're the ones who typically generate our paychecks, each and every, biweekly or monthly or whatnot. So ADP has it written down as the concept of compensating employees who have similar job functions with comparably equal pay, regardless of their gender, race, ethnicity, age, or other status.
And are we seeing that today? Do we think that's a thing? A story that comes to mind for me personally is a story that actually comes from my sister that she shared with me. She crossed over to a tech team from a customer team, like a customer support team, at one of the companies we used to work at together. And she eventually grew to be like in a lead type position and have about 2 to 3 reports under her. And because she's the lead, she can see everybody's salaries. And she had an intern hired. And mind you, she's like a double major in like mathematics, statistics, and she knows SQL. So yeah, there was an intern hired underneath her who was hired at 30% more than she was getting as the lead of this entire team. And when she went back and was like, commiserate experience and skills, even if our skills, aren't exactly, even though they pretty much were, I have more experience here than they do. So why? And they basically told her, yeah, sit down and deal with it. That's how it is. That's what
Yeah.
market skills are for that skill set today. She's like,
Yeah, I hate this, like, it's just not surprising to me. Like, that experience, I share the same experience. I was leading a team and representing the cybersecurity program in front of the C-suite, and yet discovered that there were, new people with significantly less years of experience, significantly less, credentials, responsible for significantly less important work, who were getting paid more than me. It's not. People think that this problem, like, we just talk about it at such a general level of like women and the pay gap, and we fail to bring it back down to our space and our domains, and accept the fact that, like, yes, even too here in cybersecurity, where we all get paid pretty darn well, women are still getting paid less. And the ISC squared, they actually did a study on this, and the studies show that on average women make about 22 grand less than men annually. Can you imagine what we could do as women if we had 22 grand more compensation? It's not even more, it's what we deserve, and what we could do with that.
yeah, exactly. I know a lot of women who, being in a field like this, we all say it takes a certain amount of grit, right? It takes the ability to self-start, it takes the ambition, it takes the desire to continuously learn, continually invest in yourself as a professional. Like, our companies expect us to invest in ourselves and get certifications and keep reading books and going to boot camps and stuff. But a lot of them end up finding out that it's not as worth it for them to hustle in this career field, work late hours, miss out on time with their family, and pay for daycare, because daycare is astronomically climbing higher than our salaries. They're like, it's literally cheaper for my wife to not work and take care of our kids than it is for us to put them in daycare and have her work, even though she finds her work fulfilling. So, it's the kind of thing where not only globally, like, this is just in the US, globally, it looks much, much more horrid. Globally, they're in the pay equity dark ages over in the rest of the world, most of the pieces of the rest of the world. But it just sucks that we don't pay based on skills and experience, and we take into consideration things like that. We take into consideration, but you don't take into consideration where the money goes. Where the money goes out of my paycheck versus like someone's husband's paycheck.
Yeah.
Generally.
Well, and that's sometimes the excuse that companies give, right? It's like,
Mhm.
oh, Joe, he has a family to support, so that's why we pay him more. Like we don't have our own lives to support as well. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna judge people beyond their what they produce for the company, and bring it more to a state of judging and providing money based off of people's family status. Like, that just flies in the face. It was funny, I just saw earlier there was a post, and it was talking about how if we truly had a meritocracy, like, every is the excuse that every person out there throws out in the face of these types of conversations. If we truly had a meritocracy, women would be in more positions of leadership than men. And it would be because women demonstrably outperform men in all the areas of leadership, compared to men. And so, like, if we truly got to that point of, I want everything to be a meritocracy, like, men, you'd be open, you'd be, put up against a rude awakening, because a true meritocracy would mean that women would have well over 50% of leadership positions. They would be well represented in all of our senior positions. And men wouldn't be in those positions, not because of their gender, but because they simply don't outperform the women.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think women, especially at the leadership level, outperform some of their male peers?
Because we have to.
We have
Because
to.
yeah,
Because what other damn choice do we have?
yeah, because right now we are up against societal norms and expectations and biases that automatically discount our voices, automatically discount our credentials, automatically question everything that we do. And so we have to go above and beyond with our credentials and our training and how we approach things in order to even get a sliver of the pie.
I agree. A lot of us still have that scarcity mindset that, success is pie. So more for someone else means less for me. And, that might be due to current salary and raise models. Like, I read the No Rules rules a while back, and I was listening to the compare, not simply because I just wanted to understand like how they were changing policies at a wide level to make things work differently. But it was that thing where it's like traditional raise models say we only have so much pool of money, and if I give you a higher percentage even though you deserve it, you're taking away from other people. So success literally does become pie, money does become pie, rather than just paying people, if you were to leave this job today, you could earn this much more money elsewhere, which is another point. We are often criticized for chasing salaries, but at the same time, we're locked into low salaries when we join an organization. Then our incremental raises don't exponentially manifest as much as some of the counterparts who were hired in at higher salaries in the beginning. So if we do chase a new salary to make more money, then we are just out for ourselves and we don't care about the business and we have no loyalty because we just want more money. But if we stay, then we know eventually it's going to be the law of diminishing returns. Our incomes are going to suffer because even though market rate for our skills might earn us more money somewhere else, here at our org, they're like, this is just what we're permitted to pay you based on where you're at, unless we give you a giant promotion. Then we're like, okay, great. Can we talk about a promotion? They're like, no.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like paying people more is not incentivized in our current corporate structure today, right? Like
No.
when you're a leader, you get kudos for being under budget, for getting talent at a cheaper rate. And so it makes sense why we in a way have this wage gap, right? Because the leaders who are hiring people into positions are incentivized to get talent as cheaply as possible. Now of course there's other excuses about, well, women don't negotiate or whatever. Why are we putting the work on women? It's not the women's responsibility to ensure that they are getting paid equitably. They're the ones coming to your company. You
Yeah.
tell them what is the top dollar you're willing to pay for this position, male or female. It's about the position, right?
Yeah. One time, a recruiter reached out to me and they're like, hi, we're looking for like a senior level, da da da. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. What are you looking to pay for this type of position? They're like, yeah, we're really looking for someone to cap out at no more than like 150 for a senior anything. I think it was like a senior security engineer. And they're like, because we're only asking for this, this, and this, and this, and that. And I was like, okay, great. So market rate for those skills, you're probably not going to find someone at that level because that's more of like a mid. That's like mid salaries cap out at like 160, 170s, but seniors start at like 180 and go much higher than that, up to like 210, 220. So, you're going to be hard up to find anyone of my peers or colleagues at the senior level willing to take this position. Oh, well, that's so interesting. Why? And I was like, oh, let me justify this for you. And I'd actually break down by skill. If you broke me out into 6 different professionals because of all the capabilities I have, you'd have to pay this much money to each of these professionals. Each of these salaries is worth this much on their own, which is, by the way, like 40% more than the salary that someone at my level would and should ask for. So when it comes down to the things you can provide value for and the money you're getting paid for it, you're like, if you want to go hire 6 different people for this position because it makes you feel better than paying one woman this much for these skills in this position, then that's fine. But like my poor wife, and again, she worked in manufacturing, right? And they're in the Stone Ages over there. But she was considered a member of leadership. She was the production manager. So the only the only other person at her level is the quality manager, and the only two people above them are the plant manager and the assistant plant manager. So she's like one woman as a part of a 4-person group leadership team. And she realized, because someone left something on the copier one day, literally, that she was being paid significantly less. All of them made significantly more than her. And she went to her boss and said, I came across this, unfortunately, but why is this? Can I be brought up to like my peers? I manage more people than them. I have, more urgent deadlines than them. I'm actually responsible for the product. This is all the waste I've saved us this year. This is all the processes I've improved. And they were like, yeah, we're happy to have that discussion. Why don't you write us a proposal justifying why you think you deserve more money? Because there's no raise. A raise. There's no promotion. There's nowhere to be promoted to, because the assistant's not retiring and the plant manager's not retiring. So they're like, how can we justify giving you more money without a promotion? And how can we justify getting you to your peers level unless you're going to write us a 6-page paper explaining to us why you deserve this? And she said, no. I said, hun, just do it. Who cares? She's like, no, I'm not going to jump through these hoops they would never make each other jump through, simply to say why I deserve to be paid for the job I'm already doing better than anyone has done my job previously, by the way.
Yep, that's a tactic. That is a way for them to kick the can down the road, to put an additional hurdle in front of you getting the pay that you deserved yesterday.
Yeah.
Also, that they can continue to exploit your labor, and hope that something will happen and come along where that you'll either give up, or you'll grow tired of it, or maybe you will just leave and go elsewhere. But either way, it's not their problem. And, again, we think that, well, rationally, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you want to lose really good talent? But
Right.
we're not like, this whole situation is not involving rational actors. It's involving egos. It's involving people who feel like they will be threatened and their piece of the pie will be taken from them if they give any more to another person. But the reality is in the vast majority of these companies that we are all working for today, they have more than enough money to pay everybody fairly.
Yeah, such as the panel you were asked to do, right? You were asked to do a panel by a company who garnishes, millions of dollars of revenue based on cybersecurity training and boot camps and things like that. And they invited Stacey to do a panel for Women's Day. And she was like, great, what are you paying the speakers? Like, we are not able to pay speakers at this time. Not able? I'm sorry. You're perfectly able. You're perfectly able. We can all see your revenue earnings. You just don't want to. So you want a bunch of women to make a piece of marketing material for you that you're going to pimp and say, look at how we support women, and we gave them a platform and we gave them a stage, but not pay them for their time and expertise making you look good.
Yep, exactly. And so really, like, I think one of the best questions we can really address on here is okay, if not the cupcakes, if not the social media posts, what do companies actually do? How do they actually take steps to implement pay equity? And so I'd love to hear your ideas, Meryl. I know one of mine is really just like, if someone is getting paid less than a counterpart and yet like demonstrably excels just as much, if not more than that person, go fix their pay today. There is really no obstacle in the way of doing the right thing.
I actually have a perfect antidote for this, and this is going to be the abnormality, sadly. This is not going to be the norm. But when I was hired in at Zoom, and I'm going to say the company's name, I was hired in at Zoom. I was hired in at, just over a 6-figure salary, which was so great because before I was in like the 75s. And I was like, wow, I made it to 6 figures. That's so awesome. But I did not take into account the tax I would pay on my new salary, which meant I actually netted slightly less than I took home at my lower salary, which was bananas to me. I'm still mad about that. But, I had to take on part-time work, and I was part-time threat hunting and doing all these other things. And I went to a conference and I got offered a new job at a significant pay increase. And it's not that I wanted to leave, but it was that I'd worked myself into a hole accidentally because I came from a place of uneducation. And we're going to discuss money management strategies for high earning cybersecurity figures later on in the season. But, I was like, I can't believe how wide my eyes got opened rudely. And so I told my manager, like, I'm taking a new job. at this company, they're going to pay me, I was at 110, they're going to pay me 150, which is going to solve the problem I put myself in. It doesn't give me a ton of extra money, but it gets me out of the tax hole I put myself in. So I'm really sorry to leave. I have to do this. And he was like, wait. So you don't have a burning desire to leave. It's just the money thing. And I was like, unfortunately, yes, but like, I'm not going to ask you to pay me that much money. I'm the most junior member on your team. I don't think I even deserve to make that much money compared to my colleagues. And he was like, no. And he took like 2 days. 2 days. He came back and he said, listen, I misassessed you in your interviews. He's like, I thought you were a much more junior person skills wise than you are. He's like, you only have a year and a half of experience. I think I was at 2 maybe at that point, but you bring such a wealth of skills that your colleagues don't have. If I had to replace you tomorrow, I would need about 3 people. If I had to replace just one of your red teamer skills tomorrow, I could replace them, no problem. So I'm going to give you, like, he was like, I had to go to my boss and he had to go to his boss and we had to go to the COO and we all had to have arguments because how are we giving someone who's been here less than 6 months a $40,000 a year increase to justify keeping them? He's like, but I went to the mat because I think you're worth it. Again, your skills are hard to find. You've started adding value day one. I feel bad that I brought you in at such a low salary and I'm just giving you this merit increase for no reason at all, attached to no title change, attached to no promotion, because you deserve it. And I was like,
because you are valuable, though. Like, it's not because you didn't deserve, like, it's not about deserving. It's about the value that you bring to the company. And what they did was an adjustment to better reflect that value. It's not always about, like, you don't always have to justify a price adjustment with a promotion or a change in title or role. Like, you can literally just, like, adjust it because you realize, like, this person and what they're doing is having outsized value, that if we were to try to replicate or replace it or otherwise lose this person would cost us significantly more to take care of and to replace.
Yeah, but I felt so valued. I turned down the new job offer and I still feel bad about that to this day. Like, I would have loved to go work for that company, but I felt so much admiration and like respect from my manager, Andy Grant, who was one of the most fabulous managers I've ever had to this day. And I just, I was like, thank you so much. Happy to stay here and keep adding value and keep learning and keep doing what I do. Thank you for valuing me. Like, he valued me more than I valued myself. And I was new in my career, but I'll never forget that feeling to this day. I walked away just feeling on top of the world, not feeling like the pity hire, not feeling like the most junior age-wise and experience-wise. So that was really special. So one thing you can do is reassess skill value. Like, if you think someone's going to go interview tomorrow for someone else, ask yourself what they would be getting paid and ask yourself, is it worth the opportunity cost to increase their salary, maybe that gap, or is it worth it for me to source, interview, hire, train, and then ramp up somebody completely new for $20,000 less dollars?
Yeah, I mean, you get major brownie points if you proactively do that for your staff versus waiting for them to find out that they were underpaid and undervalued and then adjusting it only after they come to you and let you know about it. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm not a parent, but maybe dealing with children where it's like you really want to encourage them. Like, if something's wrong, like, we want to encourage them to come and like, talk to us and let us know ahead of time and, like, get ahead of the issue, as opposed to just, like, waiting and finding out that the thing, they broke whatever type thing afterwards, right? Like, it's okay. It is totally okay if you messed up. If when you did the interview process, you thought I was at one level and I'm actually at a different level and I actually should have been at a higher title and all of these kinds of things. Come to me and tell me that, and then fix it and make it right. And you're going to have me as your employee for years to come.
Exactly.
Years to come.
Yeah. So that's just one of those things that you can do. And like, as a manager, I get that you're in charge of a lot, but people management is a big piece of that. And like, it behooves you, especially in tech, to stay on top of people's market worth, because again, you don't want to be in that position where you have to replace them. And you might find out that the Gen Zers you replace them with are going to put up with your bullshit. They're just going to walk in and demand, what is the pay range for this position? Well, we're hoping to pay like 120 to 150. Cool. I want 150. Well, I'm worth it. 150. Like, and this is a point salary. This is the salary point Stacey put in here. I can't even take credit for this, but this is so brilliant. don't give a range when you're posting for jobs. One thing you can intentionally do to like show employees you value them is just, if you can max afford to pay someone something for their job, pay them that for their job. Because forcing them to negotiate, forcing them to go through the steps, first of all, that stresses a lot of people out. Second of all, that we're our own harshest critics, so we're going to price ourselves way less than you might. Third of all, 10K a year might not be a lot to you, and you might feel like, oh, I saved $10,000 on that employee, but that could mean a whole world of difference. Putting their kids in baseball, being able to afford a move to be closer to family, really improving quality of life for that family. So really weigh out the costs and weigh out if you're like a good manager who values their people, or if you're a bad manager who just wants to save on the bottom line no matter what it costs you.
And ultimately, it shouldn't hinge on whether or not someone negotiates, because we know from studies that when women negotiate, it penalizes them. They are seen in a negative light for having negotiated. And there are plenty of stories out there, myself included, of situations where I and others have negotiated offers, and those offers have been rescinded because we negotiated.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Or
it
worse.
certainly wasn't because of like what I asked for. This wasn't a situation of, I'm asking for $50,000 more. It was like, oh no, like we're so close. We're right there. Just if we could tweak a little bit of this and a little bit of that, like it would be perfect. It'll be a win-win for everybody. And they were like, well, we don't think you actually like would like to be here, and would
Clearly this is not a
actually,
good fit.
yeah, this is not a good fit. I'm like, but it was a good fit 10 minutes ago when you offered me, 100 and whatever, right? Like,
I have a
what
question,
changed?
because I know someone who went through this. If you negotiated at the offer stage, right? You don't work for this organization yet, and they came back with like an insulting offer. Like, I had someone I know who, was going hourly, and they were like, I will laterally move for this much money because I just want to leave the organization I'm at. But the offer you gave me is significantly too low. We can't even afford to live on that, too low. I'm going to need you to go back and revisit. And he was like, okay. And he goes back and he says, 50 cents. Can offer you 50 cents an hour more. Would you rather even at that point? Like, is it even worth? I was like, that's so insulting. I wouldn't even have said it. I wouldn't even have. No.
Yeah, and look, so sometimes there are situations where companies just don't have a grip on reality of what the market is commanding for certain positions, especially in cybersecurity, in some of our more niche roles. And so I have had to take up the position of educating the hiring team about the difference between what they're offering and what people of my caliber are expecting out there. And in one situation, I negotiated an offer package up almost 50%. And only to get into that company and find out I was still getting paid less than other people who were doing, less impactful roles, which is just wild, right? But yeah, no, I mean, I feel like we could harp on this all
All
day.
day, but we have other points to make. I was going to say the same thing.
So another thing you kind of brought up at the beginning, two of the three things that we wanted to cover today, was really about how training plays into all of this, and especially as cybersecurity practitioners in a field that is constantly changing and evolving, and you need to keep on top of new information, new strategies, new attack patterns, like all of those kinds of things. I think this is just a really overlooked aspect of women's experience in cybersecurity and their ability to advance, is that gap of training and opportunities and investment in allowing women to go out and do additional courses, attend conferences, and get put into roles and responsibilities and opportunities that broaden their experience as cybersecurity professionals. We know, I mean, Meryl and I were both studying for the CISSP right now. We've got a squad of like 21 total women that are all studying for the CISSP right now in Hacker and Heels Insiders. To be a CISO, to be a security leader, you're supposed to get experience and have a good grasp on all sorts of cybersecurity domains, like across the entire gamut. And yet, too often, what I see and what I've personally experienced is people getting stuck in one particular domain and not being afforded the opportunities to go and expand and learn in other domains because of the dynamic we see of, men get awarded and promoted on potential, and women have to already have proven that they have the knowledge, can do the job and everything, right? And so I think that really holds us back in being able to advance as women in this industry. What do you think?
I think, and they wonder why they have such a problem with women outperforming a lot of their teammates. It's because, first of all, you condition us to believe that that's our minimum, right?
Mhm.
So I actually had one manager who was like, Meryl, you do a lot. Like, you can do like a typical person's 8 hours worth of productivity in about 3 or 4. I'm like, yes, I like to find the most efficient way to get things done. He's like, great. Don't do that. And I was like, why? He was like, because if it takes a normal person 2-3 days to get something done, take that 2-3 days. You know why? Because if you keep hustling like this, that's going to become your new standard, your new minimum baseline. And if you fall beneath that, if you're having a rough week, kids are sick, something, it's going to look like you're slacking on the job. And then if you want to overperform to like show you deserve a promotion, you are killing yourself because you're an overperformer already. He was like, so, you know, even if you finish the job early, take some time, get some other things done, get some housekeeping items done, read a few chapters in whatever book you're reading, and I was like, I'm allowed to read a book on company time. He's like, are you studying for something that's going to make you a better cyber professional and make you a better asset to this company? Is that service to company? And I was like, yeah. He's like, then yes, read a book on our time. And I was like, wow. Okay. So, even being given permission to get through my study material on company time was a mind-blowing concept for me. I was like, no, I just got to come in here and do my job. And then I got to go home and do the extras to do my job and take care of my family, which was bananas, by the way.
Yep. Being able to study and do training on company time can be a game changer for women when we know that in the after hours, women have less time to be able to continue their training and studying and reading and everything at home. There was a Pew Research study that found that working husbands in the United States, they have more leisure time than working wives do, and especially among those with children, men get generally about 2 additional hours of leisure time per week. And then when there's children involved, men get 4 relative to their women counterpart, their spouse or whatnot. And so when you think of that, like these additional hours here, like they make all the difference, especially when, oh my goodness, we see and hear all the time, all of these cyber guru, hiring people being like, set up a home lab and go get your 30th certification and do all these programs and attend all these conferences and do all these things to get ahead. And the guys are like, oh yeah, like I've got time to do it. Like I'll stay on my computer until 10 p.m. and nerd out on all this stuff. And then us women are like, we can't. And we can't because we, disproportionately shoulder a lot of the household caregiving and management and whatnot. So to expect that women get these skills in their after hours and not give them the opportunity on the job, like that's also just a huge opportunity area
Yeah.
for companies to address.
By the way, I love my children like they're my own children, but work is my respite from the children. Like if I assign myself something to get done at nighttime, it has to get done after bedtime because there is absolutely no even 10-minute period where I'm gonna be able to sit at my computer and concentrate on getting something done. So if you're like, it's a better use of your time to work during the day, do all your reports and go learn at home, no one is getting quality learning at home while they're also trying to get dinner done and get kids to bed and do homework. And by the way, there's 10 spirit days this week and a book fair and all this other crap. So my information retention and absorption is 10 times better when I'm able to focus in like we've all heard like the about the study rules and like the study strategies. When I'm able to simply zone in on that and have that be my only focus, it's way better than when I'm being split 10 different ways. Like, so if you want your people to truly learn these things, to truly further an initiative or complete a project or something like that, then it behooves you to let them do it on company time. And aligning goals like that to service to self, service to customer, service to company, most of these professional development goals will be a service to all three because we're gaining additional skills and knowledge we can apply to our jobs. We're getting better at our jobs. So, no one's just going to walk in and become a better professional doing the same thing every day, right? If you want something to change, you have to do something differently. You're going to have to dedicate time for that development. So let's talk about if you do have a training budget, how do you know how to use it? How do you know what's going to best serve your career? How do you know, how do you even know that? How do you even know like what boot camp is good or what thing is trustworthy or what skill is going to serve you the most, or how do you target them?
Yeah, so I want to make really clear here because it seems like when companies are sitting around the table and saying, "Well, what can we do to help our women advance in leadership?" The answer is almost always, let's get them mentoring. Let's get them these leadership trainings from, like, I don't know, McKinsey or Deloitte or something. And what's holding them back is that they lack the leadership qualities, and therefore we're going to go ahead and just put all this money into teaching them how to be managers and leaders and whatnot. We're never going to have the guys do these trainings. So by the way, like, the guys, they just, I don't know, I guess it's just in their blood or whatever, even though everything shows counter to that with all the studies. We're just going to have the women take time out of their work days, and they're going to go do these leadership classes. Meanwhile, the men, they're going to stay and continue doing their technical roles and technical projects and the things that boost the bottom line in a more concrete way. And then when push comes to shove and performance management comes around, it's going to be, well, John spent all this other time building out this program or this process that reduced risk by X%, and so John's going to get the promotion, even though, oh, good job on you for taking those leadership courses, but like, we just think you're not ready yet. So enough with the leadership courses, enough with all of this push and promotion of women taking all of these things. I want women doing technical certifications. I want women skipping those and focusing on projects that actually give them the visibility and the recognition at the levels of the company that they need to be spotted at. Really, it's all about less of this, like, helping women build these soft skills that we already know they are way more capable of leveraging than men in the workplace, and more leaning into that subject matter expertise training that they need to be an SME in whatever the domain that they're aspiring to be, or like in the case of like senior cybersecurity leadership, like getting that exposure and understanding across all of the domains technically.
I agree. Actually, at my current company, we have a lot of lady directors and lady practice leads. I would say just as much as we have men, which is phenomenal to see. But like, there are a lot of women out there at my company representing us to the customer and like taking over customer meetings and customer forums and all these things. So I just got to say, it's not working badly over here, and the women are not here to mess around. One of them had a baby at the end of January, and she was taking customer calls third week of February. And while I don't advocate for that, none of us could force her to do it if we wanted to. She's just the kind of woman who, like, why are you at this meeting today? Didn't you have a baby this morning? Yeah. And yet, like, she doesn't let anything hold her back. But that's not typical. Most people need that.
That has to be a choice, right? Like,
yeah.
if that is just, someone truly feels inclined and called to jump in and help with something that like that, even as they're experiencing or going through something as significant as pregnancy and having a kid and everything, then that's fine, right? It's when people feel like they have to in order to continue to be recognized and respected and compensated at the level that they deserve.
Yeah, no, I think she was given the choice. She's just one of those badasses who just doesn't sit still. I could never. I'm not even at her level. It's bananas. But when it comes to the mentoring thing, we all harp on mentoring and say mentoring is the key, and leveraging other people's experience is how you yourself do things better and faster and accelerate your career and all these things. And I myself have spoken to the value of it because I had mentors, when I first started. But a very different mentorship shift happens, I've noticed, when women get to those mid-level and leadership positions. My first female manager, my first female leader, was literally taking leadership lessons from the CTO at my first company. And she was having like mentorship sessions with this person. And she was supposed to learn from him how to, you know, accelerate her career, like get into the leadership ladder and things like that. And she was like, literally all he does is kick back in his chair and tell me stories about like him and the buddies, about like a story about when he crushed it, or a story about when he, did something. And like, it wasn't to teach her the lesson or the strategy or like make it replicatable. It was basically to pontificate and to like puff himself up and make him feel good. And then, oh, he spent X amount of hours mentoring other leaders in the company, and she hasn't learned or implemented anything because she's not getting any value out of it. And when she asks him questions, he's like, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. What I really want to tell you about today is a time when. And it's just, it's the kind of thing where even if we do get in there, if we do speak up and say we want this, and then we do get in there and we start to try to develop these relationships, we can't even garnish the things that we need out of it to help propel ourselves forward. She ended up having to leave that organization to get her next step up as well.
Yeah, mentorship is overhyped and underperforms. It is something that, really people put a lot more hope and expectations on it than what is realistic. Mentorship really is the act of sharing what the mentor has experienced and the techniques and the paths that they took to get to an outcome or a position where they are today, with the idea that the mentee could potentially pull pieces of that and apply that to their own journey and potentially end up with the same outcome. But the reality is, and especially if it's a man mentoring a woman, the techniques and the tactics that men use to get ahead can actually actively work against women. And that if women try to employ the same techniques, they might experience a negative outcome from it. And so, there's this, what you just said with your story of like people who show up, who volunteer to be mentors. And I think, what I hear as someone who has been going through literally, dozens of hours of coach training and becoming a certified coach through IPEC and the International Coaching Federation, it sounds like what you were almost hoping for was a coaching relationship. What you got was the mentoring relationship that, let me just tell you my stories and you can take from it what you will. Coaching is when the focus is on in your situation, we'll just say the mentee to make it easy. That's the focus is on them and understanding their strengths, their desires, their skills, their values, and helping them navigate their reality to get to the outcomes that they want. And it centers and respects everything about that individual, their values, their identity, so on and so forth. And so I think, what we really need is more coaching, and not just any coaching. We need people who are actually trained to be coaches. Or at the very least, if we are going to call it mentorship and we want to leverage, this kind of like mentor mentee relationship in companies, then the mentors also need to have some training on how to at least clearly drive some sort of outcomes for their mentee and make that clear up front, versus just showing up and rambling about themselves for an hour.
Yeah, I always say to get effective mentorship, you need to know what you want out of it. So like, again, at Zoom, like I was very junior and I was learning from everyone around me, but my manager would say, what do you want to learn? What's important to you? What skill do you want to develop? And I'm like, I really want to learn X. And he's like, great. Jose knows a lot about that. Get with Jose. And he'd be like, hey, I heard you want to learn this thing. Do you have some time? Let me show you. And I'm like, yes, great. This is practical. I have a goal. We are fulfilling the goal. This is perfect. I think it becomes a lot harder when you're being mentored in soft skill things like leadership and stuff like that. But I think it's so important that you brought up mentorship versus coaching, which is going to be, again, its own episode later on this season. But it's also interesting that mentors don't get paid for anything they do. They volunteer their time. And coaches do. Like, you will seek out and pay for, like, if you're going to go do a bodybuilding competition, you're not just going to ask a bodybuilder about like his experiences and like try to implement that yourself. You're going to go get a coach, get something custom designed for you, track your progress, pivot as needed, but you pay someone for that expertise. Whereas, I was just approached via DMs on LinkedIn, like, hey, like, we have this mentorship program that we're trying to get off the ground for like, women in Africa, which I think is a very admirable mission. And I wish I had time to help, but I was like, do you have time to volunteer? And I'm like, I so wish I did. I really, really do. I don't have time for any more volunteer things on my plate when it comes to giving back to my own company and my own side projects. Like, I'm just stretched too thin. Like, I really wish I could. So it's unfortunate that it becomes a crossroads, but there's also that certain level you reach of like giving away expertise for free and like very closely training and coaching and giving someone personalized, detailed advice and steps they can take, and just on a volunteer basis.
And also, like, what happens when women say no, right? Like, when
she's not willing to help out people around her. She's selfish. She's self-serving.
She's selfish. She's self-serving. All of these types of negative reactions that women are confronted with, and they personally, internally feel by being set up in a position to have to say no, right? Because so many people, men and women, just be clear, men and women pull on the heartstrings of women and try to exploit their time for free. And so it's exactly that. It's just, when we've already talked about how women are underpaid, how they don't have as much leisure time as men do, and then knowing that you're going to come at us and expect us to provide our time for free, and if we don't, you're gonna hold that against us. Like, that just sucks, right? Like, as women trying to operate within that framework, there's no winning there, right? And that's unfair, and that it shouldn't be that way. So I like, seeing out there on today and even other days here forward and throughout the month, like, don't expect or don't ask for discounts from the women in your life. Don't ask them to do labor for free. Now, you can always give them the choice. Like, that's how we lead at Hacker and Heels with our guest mentors. We always give them the choice. Look, we are ready, able, and willing to pay you a speaker fee if you so choose to. Alternatively, if you forgo that speaker fee, we put that directly into subsidizing memberships for women of color to be able to get access to insiders for a year, right? Like, what's important is making sure that the choice is out there. And then if women decide, like, they want to take the money, like, you can't hold it against them, right? Because holding it against them just literally crumbles down the entire point you were just trying to make or do or support as women, right? And so to your thing too, like, look, I think it's totally fair if women want to set aside X amount of hours per year or do one specific thing pro bono. But beyond that, like, no, we're done. We're done doing work for free.
But even like, I've seen companies who incentivize like volunteer, like it's really important for us to have our employees volunteer and give back to their communities and things like that. So they're like, for every 10 hours of volunteer work that you do, you get a day of bonus PTO or something like that. Like that, or if you have a personal ethos to, again, have a set side of hours and give back. But we can't be doing it everywhere, or we're literally not making any money back for ourselves and our families. And we're, every time we give to someone else's time, we take away from things for ourselves. Like, I still haven't found time to fit in self-care this month. That just feels like a chore, but that's a whole separate discussion. The last thing I want to make on this before we move on to supporting women-led enterprises, and especially because this is a rather long episode, I keep saying they're going to be half hours and they're not. Maybe there's 50-minute episodes. Is that DE&I initiatives, DE&I programs at your company, DE&I boards, DE&I things going on in your org. Asking people to lead these while performing their full-time job and while doing all the other things they give back to the company to do is one of the reasons they're not successful. I've seen certain companies, very forward-thinking, progressive, usually millennial-led companies, where they're like, oh, this is my base salary, and I also make an extra like X amount of dollars a month. It's like a separate thing for leading this program, for leading this board, for furthering these our charity initiatives or whatever. But they're paid additional time because asking someone to do two jobs, like, DE&I officer is an actual job. And if you're asking someone to be the DE&I officer and be, a senior security engineer, like one of those two things is going to suffer. One of those two things is not going to be done well because you're going to be performance graded on one of those things for promotions and not for the other. The other one just makes you feel good about yourself. So incentivizing these things, or like actually creating paid programs with paid people to lead them, is one of the reasons that they're not working right now. One of the things that you can also do. And one of the other ways people go, oh, well, if the women in tech things mean so much to you, you organize the women in tech at our company and you put it together for free on top of your other job duties, by the way.
Yep. And we will take photos and post it all over our social media and benefit from all the unpaid labor that you put in. And then, by the time when it comes around for promotions and we compare the work that you did and the work that Zachary did, and Zachary didn't spend, 60, 70, 80 additional hours doing this kind of ERG, DE&I work. Oh, but you two are both going to get promoted and get the same pay and the same whatever, right thing. And so it's like, it kind of didn't even matter that you did any of that work at all.
It's true. Last thing I'm going to say on the subject, because I have a friend out there, a very close friend, who works in sales, and she's led like 30 freaking vendor-led happy hours for this company. And like they post the photos all over socials and they love the socials. And it's kind of like her job to be like the social girl now. But she's kind of being penalized on the back end because she's not closing as many deals as like people around her. And she's like, but how many of those things have they done? Like how much of your feed is those people versus like you're benefiting from all the PR from me, but like one thing is going to take away from the other. That takes time to put that together. Anyway, it's just bonkers. Love you, girl. I hope you're doing better. Anyway, last thing we're going to move into, actionable things you all can do besides your posts and besides like the want to help. And volunteering your time, frankly, because it shouldn't all be up to volunteers to help women or we won't get anywhere, is to actively support women-led enterprises. One of our core values is to invest intentionally. And that means that wherever we can, we use vendors, companies, professionals that are women, LGBTQ members, persons of color, led or owned by them, or at least a majority by them. So, the salon we're having at the WeSees conference coming up, we are using a venue that is owned. Isn't it LGBTQ owned?
Yep.
LGBTQ owned. The photographer is an LGBTQ member. And that was very important to us for Nashville because of the state legislation. So we wanted to support specifically that audience and that demographic within that city. And we're not just giving our business to whatever restaurant, whatever vendor is going to give us the lowest price. It's important to us to invest intentionally. You can do the same thing.
Yep. It's just a Google search away. That's how I find the vendors that we ultimately go with. Cybersecurity or Cybercrime Magazine has a list that they published in, I think last summer, that has dozens. Maybe there could be 100 on there. I didn't count.
Are there 100?
I mean, I think so. I feel
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I just love that number.
100 companies, owned or led by women, specifically in cybersecurity. So they're out there. If you just spend just a little bit of time and effort, you will find them. You will bump into them. And if you spend your dollars at these companies, you make all the difference, especially because just to even be a woman in business is an uphill climb. We know that women get only 2% of all VC funding. And so most of these companies are bootstraps. Most of these companies, Hacker and Heels is bootstraps. Hacker and Heels is $80,000 of my own money that I have made through working in cybersecurity, that I turned around and took that pay and I put it back into building this thing for the past 4 years. Mm-hmm. And so when you go and you give those dollars to those women-owned, women-led companies, you are setting them up for success and, helping them not have to direct that money away from their families and their own personal lives and just to put it into the business, to do the right thing, to create jobs for other people and whatnot, right? Like we know Absolutely. That when you invest in women way more than men turn around and take that money and put it back into their communities. So it's no brainer.
I couldn't agree enough. Like I said, I have a tale of a friend of mine who's a woman who was a CEO of her own company. She found a niche, she found a need in our industry, and she sought to fill it with her own company. And she just couldn't get it off the ground. She couldn't get the funding she needed, and she couldn't get it to market. And that was she was told one of the main reasons was because she was just one girl out there, and they called her a girl, one woman out there trying to start her own thing. And it breaks my heart every single time I see a woman with a great idea who has to close her doors and go back to working a W-2 job when she really wants to start her own thing. It breaks my heart a little bit. So often, and even in your own personal lives, look at your Facebook feeds. You'll see this. If someone announces getting a job promotion or getting a new job somewhere, people are like, wow, great, good luck, like wishing all the good things and advancement for you and da-da-da. But if someone's like, I'm starting my own business, please go like my page, here's how you can support me, they're like, oh, are you sure? Are you sure that's going to be really risky and really scary? And are you sure you have what it takes to make it? And they just immediately start putting the fear in there and downplaying them and making them second guess their decisions. And that's what we go into business with. We go into business with those feelings of like impending failure. So how do
Which
you
is
think?
wild. It's wild,
wild
because
it's a wild paradigm.
Everything shows the opposite. That when you have a woman in the CEO position, those companies overperform well and beyond the ones that have CEOs that are men. So of the S&P 500, there are 459 of them with male CEOs. 41 of them have women CEOs. The women-led companies outperform male-led companies to the tune of 384% returns over, I think it was a 10-year period, versus 261% from the male-led companies. So basically, like, if I came to you and I was like, Meryl, I have a proven way to get you an additional 123% of a return on your stock price, and you turn around and you refuse it, what does that say? To me, that says that these companies are actually not fulfilling their obligation to their shareholders in making business decisions that net the best profits for the company, because we have the data right here that shows that putting women in positions of leadership will net you more returns, and you all are decidedly ignoring that and going with the dudes.
And you know what? I love to. I've said this a number of times. I'm going to say it again. It's because with no other species in the world would you go, oh, just because that's the girl version of that species, it's not as scary. Like, I got bit by a shark, but it was a girl shark, so it really wasn't that bad because they're wimps. Like, a shark is a shark. Like, a CEO is a CEO. A business savvy person is a business savvy person. Another one that you found enlisted, 2021 HBR article. The research shows that women, companies with more women in the senior positions are more profitable. They are more socially responsible, and they provide safer and higher quality customer experiences and employee experiences. So it's one of those things where, if you turn us into workhorses and we'll bend over backwards for everybody but ourselves, why wouldn't you want that woman on your leadership team? Why wouldn't you want that person there? And it starts with having a woman in certain meetings and in certain rooms, and probably the only one to give you that point of view because you're not considering it yourself. But what it really needs to grow to is an equal voice, an equal vote, an equal weight. So it can be better. It could be done better. And no one's ever suffered as a result, to be honest. So we're going to close out this episode. It's been a little long. Again, we'll probably have to release these as two. But it's important for us on Women's Day as a women-led podcast by women for women to emphasize these points. So we're going to leave you with some calls to action. We really want to encourage you to take some personal and professional steps to support and actively invest in the women around you, not just us. If you need family photos done, find a female photographer. If, you want something, not just the soft skill things either. If you want a certain job done, go find some female engineers and architects to help you pull it off, because I guarantee you they're really good at their jobs. Really, really good at their jobs. Additionally, as you know, we, the Cyber Queens and Hacker in Heels, we are leading salons. We are bringing women leadership and networking dinners to a lot of the major conferences where we see a lot of the CISO dinners happening already. And, I'd love to go to that, but I got to a CISO thing. Like, yeah, we would love to do that too. We want to go too. So if you are, if you are intentional about it and you want to actively invest in women and you want to further along, let us share strategies, let us collaborate, let us innovate together, and let us bring those products and those results to the cyber industry. No one's mad that I helped bring up purple teaming. I'm just saying. Please feel free to invest in one of those events. We would love to have you reach out to us about sponsoring. We are intentional about who we sponsor with. We're just going to accept money from the people treating their women like dirt. So make sure the proof is in the pudding. And if not, we're happy to work with you on improving the experiences of your women employees.
Absolutely.
Stacey, what else can they do?
Yeah, so really, all of those things, and especially just encouraging the women at your company to sign up for Hacker and Heels Insiders. Is $25 a month or $249 a year. We have lots of perks like the monthly connection calls. We have group coaching. We have study hours and study squads. A community app where you can really ask any questions, and you really get a direct line to Meryl and myself, as well as just so many incredible, impressive women in the community to be able to connect with. So, hey, if anything, what you can do is have your company pay for these women's memberships, and there you go. You support us. You support
$25 a month. $25 a month. And let me tell you, I'm not sure on our turnover numbers for sure. I don't think we've had anyone leave yet, but pretty much everyone who shows up freaking loves it. They freaking love it in there. It's very, very low for the price. Like the immediate community and the value that you get is only going to get better. It's already great, but it's only going to get better. And we have people out there talking about it who we don't pay to fluff us up. And if it was bullshit, they would call us on it. So, it's just another thing you can do. We hope to see you in there. And if not, we hope to see you out there actively supporting the women around you. If you're going to start a project, think of including one of your female colleagues. If you are interested in researching something or publishing something or writing something, just think of including one of the women around you and giving them that opportunity to further themselves and their skills.
Find more excuses to include women than starting out by thinking about excluding them. If you change your mindset and focus on what are all the reasons why we should have women do this thing, be in this position, get promoted to this level, I guarantee you that you'll realize that the benefits far outweigh and overshadow any sort of excuse you could come up with.
10 out of 10 agree. Hermione was the best part of the golden trio. We all know it. Okay, with that, we are wishing you all a happier International Women's Day. We hope that you guys go out and find the actionable things you can do. We thank you so much for spending your Friday and your time with us. We, the Queens, love you. Please don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. And honestly, feel free to reach out and support us. We would love to have more of you here.